Hello. Sorry. Damn. Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Archival Discourses. Hang on. Where the hell is everybody gone? There we are. Hello, and for this episode, I am once again joined by Mikeofpol and Melon, and also first time on this channel, J.Ford. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Doing good.
Just doing awesome, man.
Happy to be here.
Yes, yes, the eunuch. No, I actually made that intro, not Mike.
No, it is Mikeofpol-esque. You know, it's I'll have to be you'll be getting served a cease and desist later on. But no, very good.
We got some serious
Well,
Death Athletic vibes going on.
Oh yeah.
No, absolutely. And well, you know, when you're a millennial, you know, you've got to feel the angst, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
no, of
And
course.
I don't think any other generation can really model it the same way the millennials can. It's cringe, and some of it's cool, but mostly it's cringe.
Yeah, it's funny where, you know, we kind of left off, I guess, kind of to transition us out of, you know, the total childhood nostalgia, you know, weirdness of millennial culture we kind of talked about last stream, you know, to kind of set us up for, you know, definitely musically where we're going to go, you know, just based on that intro and talk about, you know, angst and young adulthood, you know, on into, you know, everything else farther on in the millennial generation. You got to remember, like, the context is like every middle school and high school dance was like this was the heyday of like R&B. Like every single high school and middle school dance was like, you know, Usher and all of these different artists, or like Amarion, you know, all these different people. And so it was all. Mikeofpol says trans right. No, thank you. You motherfucker, Ford. Quit derailing me. Now, so like all of this like very heartfelt, you know, kind of weird, weepy, kind of like love song, heartbreak, kind of thing was kind of in the zeitgeist, and then developing into young adulthood, it completely transitioned away into like total angst. All of the fetters of, I guess, like the R&B high school dance, you know, totally fell away because yeah. So I think that's kind of like an interesting point to kind of transition us to what we're actually going to be talking about.
No, certainly. And to kick us off, over the past couple of weeks, there's been a couple of interesting posts I've seen on X, which I've bookmarked, and so we're going to have a quick look through them. And there's a few references to some of the topics we talked about last time. So let me just bring this up. Okay, yep. So for the first one, so we got Steam download stats in 2013. The internet used to be 20% Scandinavian. And so look, it's mostly the West, hardly any in you know where. And I think if you go further down, this is what it's like today. Look how horrific it is.
It's over.
And I think it could get a lot worse.
Over. You know, yeah, I think it was Birdo over on TLE that said, you know, this change in the internet, you know, should colloquially be called Africa Online, because it's not, you know, I think he diagnosed this months ago where he said, you know, white guys are not the king of the internet anymore, and so we're seeing content like, you know, these African like TikTokers and stuff like totally taking over, where you know, they're making like all the funnies that go viral and stuff like that. It's very odd to see.
Yeah, I'm sure we've all seen the picture of the Halo one, or it was one of the Halos, the launch, and it's just all America and some of Europe, and God, it was beautiful. And whatever we do, it's going to have to be like an invite only. Like we're going to have walls. We really need a digital wall, man. This isn't going to work. Like, this is over. This is going to become what TV is now, unfortunately.
A great tirade of third world slop, unless we stop it now.
No, I think that we're doomed for that. You know, it's definitely I think it's definitely over. That's something to be angsty about. I think for sure.
I'm gonna throw this out there. Urbit fixes this, so yeah, we won't have to worry about it.
An unfortunate truth. An unfortunate truth. And I think that's something that's not totally unfair to bring up is kind of these different internet schemas that actually make you like have to literally pay in for an identity. It does filter out closer to what the original internet was. So could be cool. In practice, I haven't seen it flourish yet, but we'll see.
What is Urbit? Is that
Urbit
some
is
Bitcoin?
no, it's Curtis Yarvin's old project. It's his whole idea and conception was to redo like computing for all the way from the bottom up, all the way from like assembly language, all the way up to like how the network is structured and stuff like that. And it makes it where you have to, like the way that Urbit is structured, yeah, you have to like pay in and buy, they're called planets, to have an identity on the network and post and interact and stuff. It's like an interesting project. I've played around with it, way back in the day. I was actually trying to learn Hoon, which is the programming language that it uses. It's very esoteric and confusing. It's a very odd project, but probably it'd take too long to actually like talk through actually what it does.
Yeah, I mean this isn't an Urbit crash course. It's it's a very esoteric way of having a chat room right now. That's probably its biggest use case, and it's encrypted and you can identity manage with it. So it's useful for the fact that I don't know if it's got like protections against like being taken down or getting like banned or stuff like that, because it is a distributed identity service and it is peer to peer. But it's a lot more resilient than people give it credit for. Um, but I mean, I literally just got my own ship like the other day and started messing around with it. I'm just like, okay, there might be something here. But I mean, it's kind of like it's kind of remembering like me back in the day when I like would go on to like forums for the first time and actually like explore the internet. Back before we had our true web 2.0. Now, me being the age that I am, I don't really remember a time where we had our web 1.0 and you had the chat rooms and stuff like that. Most of my interactions with the internet was all on web 2.0, like Facebook.
Okay, Ford, explain these terms because I vaguely think I know what you're talking about, but what is the difference between 1.0 and 2.0?
Sure. So, I mean, the breakdown between Web 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0 is basically how you interface with the internet as a whole. Web 1.0 was basically, you had a lot of people on their personal web pages, you had a lot of personal blogs. In order to find stuff, you either had to use a search engine or you had to be a part of a sort of a link ring where people would link your stuff on their websites. Now it's Web 2.0, where we use a lot of services to interact with each other, such as using X, formerly known as Twitter, using Facebook, using Instagram, and stuff like that. And then Web 3.0 is kind of like a split down the middle sort of thing, where you have your individual identities on the net, but it's all available like in the ecosystem itself, and it's very blockchain oriented as far as identity goes. So it basically firmly puts you in the place of like pseudo anonymity. You can't have truly an anonymous account, but like anonymity sort of died with the Patriot Act a long time ago. So it's not really like a change as far as like methods go. And then whenever you have these new styles of interacting with the web, like Web 1.0, Web 2.0, Web 3.0, you usually have like the general culture around how you interact with each other. Web 1.0 was, autists doing their things. Web 2.0 was really at the behest of a lot of Silicon Valley types of people, like Bill Gates and who's the Apple guy, Tim Cook. I don't know.
Yeah, Tim Cook or Steve Jobs at the time.
Steve Jobs. Yeah, that guy. So they're the ones that really made like web browsing available on the phone, and that's really where you saw the launch of Web 2.0.
Yeah, that's also where we get, if you want to describe it as eras, like Web 1.0 is autists online, Web 2.0 is normies online, and then Web 3.0 is
Bitcoin
uh,
scammers online,
Bitcoin
basically.
scammers online, and because Web 2.0 has, like I was talking about earlier, that was the beginning. We're beginning to see the end tidal wave effects of that with Africa Online. It transitioned from normies online to Africa Online.
Great, fantastic. Yes, we need our great Western firewall. But to move on now. Last time we were talking a little bit about MMOs and World of Warcraft. Well, a new trailer's been released for the new expansion. Let's give
Oh
this a
no!
watch,
Don't
shall
do
we?
this. Why you have to do this to me?
Stop this! Dinah fought to save all of Azeroth. He sold us out so the Alliance and Horde could wage war in Kar-Zalgar. You'll never understand. For Eresaur!
Problem glasses chick versus
The
POC.
Red Dog
Wonderful.
will rise again.
Is that edgy POC? Lesbian edgy POC.
Oh my
I can forgive edgy POCs.
No, he reacted to that hunger. Did you not see his video? He actually did it. Yeah. This is the state of World of Warcraft in 2025. I mean, imagine being in like 2005 and saying to someone, hey, this is what World of Warcraft will look like in 20 years' time, and they wouldn't believe you.
Oh, hell no. Hell no. Dude, it's the decline. This is where millennial culture leads to, is the utmost decline like this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna kill my warp drive right now and see if that helps fix it. Maybe that's hogging all the frame rate.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's enough of that anyway. I think it would have traumatized everybody if you saw it properly anyway. So
that video was barely watchable. You're right, but not because of the frame rate issue.
Oh god, I've got another video lined up. God, I hope this doesn't have the same issue. Well, last time we were talking about Melon, you showed an edit of like Call of Duty and like Breaking Benjamin. Well, here's a fan at Breaking Benjamin concert, but he's playing Halo on his phone. Is that playing all right, or is it still lagging?
No, it's playing better now.
It's serviceable.
Okay, that's a hell yeah.
There is something cool in this, but it's also kind of sad. It's like, this guy should have moved on from this. But it is really impressive that we can just do that on something we can carry around with us now. I remember not upgrading my phone for 9 years because I'm a boomer, and that I was shocked by what you can do with them now. You can emulate stuff that would take up a whole entertainment center.
Yeah, I'll say, speaking of being like a bit of a laggard with technology, it may all surprise you to know that I didn't get a smartphone until 2018.
Based.
Yeah, I just couldn't be asked with it.
No, I mean, yeah, the smartphone, yeah, I mean, the smartphone was the mind rape of everybody, completely and totally, so, I mean, people that held out, I think, definitely retained more normalcy. They were probably had less exposure to the different, like, information hazards that caused, like the double onset of like being a permanent child as well. So, I mean, kudos to you, and like anyone else that did try to hold out. You held the line, sorry that you failed.
Yeah, and I'm sure Ford can talk on this, but so Stormy Waters recently did a thing with Pete talking about stuff that the schizo's like already knew, but he had documentation that like your phone watches your rapid eye movements and like the different temperature in your face to like intuit your responses to stimuli on the screen. And I'm just saying that doesn't happen in that way if you're still a boomer on a desktop. Like that's a fraction of the telemetry, unless Ford's about to correct me here.
Well, one of the things about any sort of piece of technology, especially the corporate plugins that are phone, is that you don't know just what exactly is going on with your phone. You don't know when it's scanning your face. You don't know if Instagram is doing these things. There's people who have put them in like Faraday cages, which is essentially a no network zone, and see what information goes out of the phone and what information it can log and stuff like that. And it's very difficult because all of these things are encrypted. But this is one of those things of like, and this is where a lot of like conspiracy theories thrive, is that you just don't know what exactly this Black Mirror is going to be doing to you and getting feedback from you. So I mean, like, there's things where it's just like, oh, you can your Instagram reads your face, and it doesn't just read what you like, but it also measures the temperature of like when you flush, when you see a big booty Latina scroll by on your Instagram feed, and then it feeds you more of that sort of stuff. You don't know what sort of subtle signs they're picking up on, but that technology absolutely exists. I mean, if your phone can read your face and determine that it's you and let you in, which disable biometrics, by the way, for getting into your phone, that's not federally protected.
Yep.
So the police can force you to open up your phone if you have biometrics enabled. Look, I'm just saying for like the average user, all right? And you can't
not for
deny.
him, not for
Yeah,
Ford.
you can't deny that the average person has been absolutely one shot by the propaganda. But
Yep.
basically, what I'm saying is like you don't know the uses of the technology versus like what it's capable of. I mean, was kind of like the thing that was popping up where people were paying attention to Xfinity with the Wi-Fi thing. That technology has been in inception ever since Wi-Fi has existed. It just wasn't feasible to use because of the speeds of Wi-Fi. But Wi-Fi is effectively like close range radio signals. And then 12, 13 years ago, researchers finally had enough power to where they said like, oh, students did this, and they did a presentation on it. So this thing is like, the thing is like there's barriers to like what you can see. There's an information asymmetry what these corporations have on you, and you really sort of got to see the whole thing sort of develop and evolve over your young teen and adult life into what these things are. And I think this brings forward like a particular kind of like skepticism that tech-minded millennials have towards technology, where it's just like, yeah, this thing is probably doing it, but then there's also the element of apathy there.
Yeah.
Like,
I just wanted to add on to your point before you got too far from it. I mean, millennials were the first people to get this to get this kind of feedback mechanism based on information that's being observed, worked on, and then sent back out into the suggestion algorithm 9-10 hours a day for most of their adult life. So you could see how this blew up into like reinforcing like paraphilias in order to just like boost engagement, right? That's essentially like all of Tumblr, or all of what Tumblr was.
Oh god, we have to tell. We'll probably do that a little later, but Tumblr, man, like that was like a tumor that they popped and then it went everywhere. Like we had that shit contained, and then anyway.
Yeah, sorry, Ford.
No problem.
I completely forgot the point that I was getting on. But basically, the thing is, and the big thing is that with these technologies, there's a huge amount of like capability. The largest barrier to capability and whether or not it's used on you is like the feasibility of having it either specially or commercially available. Like, for instance, back when Wi-Fi was really useful, I mean, some special forces would set up Wi-Fi routers on the outside of a building to get a full map of like what movements were going on. Like, yes, Batman Begins where he had the Wi-Fi scanning. That's 100% a thing. That's not like soft disclosure. But that wasn't exactly super commercially useful. Now it's commercially useful, so they're like, oh, this is a capability that we have. And now like the schizos are like, oh, we've been vindicated that they did this to track your movements. And it's just like, well, is it for tracking your movements for a commercial purpose, or is it tracking it because you're getting gang stalked and they're in the walls? Which the answer is, of course, always the latter one. You are getting gang stalked, and they are in your walls. Tear them out. The voices are there.
Yeah, the bugs are under your skin too.
The bugs are coming from inside the Wi-Fi router.
The bugs are a figment of your postmodern imagination. Yes, for those who are interested, thanks to the influence of Mikeofpol, I read Simulacra and Simulation between the last stream and this one. So, yeah, all I have to say is I think Baudrillard has melted my brain more than the summer heat.
Yeah, it's, I've got several of my mutuals telling me that I'm going to Baudrillard myself, into the loony bin. And that might be true. I don't know. It's, I'm thinking about doing a little reading space after this, just because I've got the itch again. So that'll be fun, to kind of like step out of like, dissecting the millennial mind, which is its own interesting topic of conversation, just because like there's so many different kind of like effects and social tides that went into like the formation of the millennial mind, just like, how the idiosyncrasies of the internet work, like the massification of pop culture to, ever growing heights, like all the way to, things that we don't think about, where like music was turned into a 9-to-5 thing, with like the first iPods and stuff like that. Like this is something you could literally jam out every hour of the day, when that used to absolutely not be as much of the case. Like you did have mobile CD players and stuff like that, but it really wasn't something you could actually jam out to 24 hours, in the day, which is interesting. So there's a bunch of different effects that have gone into millennial mind formation, in the aggregate.
No, certainly. And there's a clip Melon wants me to play, so I'm just going to bring this up.
You took my sonar concept and applied it to every phone in the city. With half the city feeding you sonar, you can image all of Gotham.
So the schizos have been saying this has been happening for like 20 years, and that's the clip everyone's sharing around.
Yeah, I think AA referenced this clip on like one of his streams that, this is a problem where they just, just connect it all together and just steal your data.
Yep.
Okay, let me bring my X feed back up one moment. Hang on. Okay, so moving on. Back to gaming, got a good Stone Toss comic. Why can't game companies stop with the DEI and be more like Valve? 2004. Hey gamer, I'm a black science man. Please meet my daughter, your Blasian GF. It's so true though. But back in 2004, no one would have said it was woke, but today people would decry it as woke. As they say, he never misses.
It's true. I mean, this is one of those things where you definitely had a lot more subtlety with a lot of the stuff. There's always sort of like the scare behind gaming, being used as like as an ultra violence initiation ritual back in like the 90s and very early 2000s. And then you also have the fact that it was less in your face about what they were trying to tell you. Like I don't think that video games in particular were like, occult conducted products of like Satanists to make you more violent. But I almost certainly believe that, video games, when they came out, were either consulted with or utilized by, either intelligence agencies or the DoD to basically act as not recruitment, but I mean sometimes it would have that purpose, but it would at least give you a predisposition towards that sort of stuff. I mean, now in order to do recruiting in this day and age, the Army has esports teams. Back in the day, they just sold you Call of Duty, you know?
And if I recall correctly, wasn't there a game called like America's Army, and it was like a video game shooter which would directly try to like advertise for you to join the army?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's one of those unique cases. And I think they did a must studies. I think they did a study where they were just like, rail shooters actually do improve marksmanship too. So whenever there is sort of a new technology space like video games, of course it's going to draw the eye of intelligence agencies and recruitment for that sort of stuff. I mean, I think there was, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is, and I hope this isn't fiction, but like there were literally like terror cells communicating over video game chat systems, and that's why we have such moderation over in-game video systems now, in-game like chat systems, where you can't just say anything, or you can't just type anything. So
Which
literally,
sucks.
literally, thank you, terrorists. You ruined my COD lobbies.
Yeah, and here we see particularly World of Warcraft being targeted for this. I remember back in the day, you could actually chat was so free you could construct entire images at, what is it called, ASCII or no? What's it called when you
ASCII.
make an image? Right. So you could make entire like banners and images, and then just spam them in chat, and along with any slur you wanted. And in retrospect, I guess they're right. You could do that to recruit the terror cells, but still, fuck them.
Yeah, watch me spam my large anime girl in chat,
Yeah.
and this will. ISIS is recruiting. ISIS needs me, and they posted an anime girl at a shitty ASCII art. Hell yeah, I'm joining right up. I don't know about you guys, but that's the
Yeah.
kind of thing that gets me interested.
Millennials had the first guy recruited into ISIS, from an ASCII art anime girl.
Oh dear. And this guy, the tasteful thickness. How come the gay rights movement is so deeply tied to paedophilia? Namble formed by gay rights activists and socialists. Well, I think you've kind of answered your own question there.
Yeah, it's not rocket science. it's really not rocket science, thickness. Oh man.
So, the legend was true. When one kills the Ashbreaker, the two become one.
Yeah. And if you think that's cool, watch this.
Okay.
Wow.
So
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Wow,
Hell
that was
yeah.
cool.
it is kind of cool. So this was I fucked up this clip, but what they were pointing out with the terrorists is you could use the in-game 3D environment to make propaganda, which I mean, I still think this is cool, even though it's kind of cringe. You imagine you could. I mean, they're kind of right, aren't they?
I mean, what do we have now except for like Arma stuff? Like, is this a fan made animation?
This was a fan made, but by like a 14-year-old 15 years ago.
Incredible. We used to have such generational talent, and now we just have, edgy hitting edgy.
Yeah.
in the new ads, and it's just like this has so much more soul with a V in it than anything that the mainstream can produce right now. And it's just one of those things of back then there was like a culture of something very specific, and to make this sort of animation, keep in mind they didn't have video editors like they do like nowadays. Like this was difficult to slap together. This was difficult to actually make.
Yeah, I don't know what tools they used, but like it would use the stock animations from the 3D environment. Like the animation right there is from an ability in the game called Mutilate, I think. And so you could have a list of these different animations that you could like import from whatever game, and then you could use it in different, like the amount of autism that it took to do this is like off the charts. It's really pathetic what little they can accomplish these days.
If you think about that, another thing I've noticed that this is irredeemably masculine. I mean, that WoW video I attempted to play, I mean, the two main characters fighting are both bloody women, and one of them's black, so you just see how far we've fallen.
Yeah, it's like if you're going to be sort of like pretending to find the form to participate in the forms of like a showdown, a duel, or something like that, then you actually need to have the elements of tension there. They're trying to sort of like have these hype moments and try to give aura to these characters, both Zoomer terms, by the way, that just aren't earned in the cinematic, and they aren't technically like built up. Whereas, this 15-year-old, 14 years ago, holy moly, this guy probably has kids if he ever got away from his WoW addiction. This guy was able to really just, with literally only like 2 seconds of setup, just be like, no, we're having a battle. And then that's where it's just like, let's actually have something going on here, which I don't know. I don't want to point back to this and just be like, everything was better back in the day.
Well,
even though it was.
This was universally shit on when it came out. Like everyone secretly enjoyed it, but everyone shit on it at the same time because the people making the professional product were still good. So in comparison, it looked shitty and amateur. But now the professionals, quote unquote, are so bad that this looks really good.
Yeah, I think Ford, what you said about aura, the kind of Zoomer invention of the word aura is what killed aura in all actual fact, because Yeah, there's this whole idea of like aura farming. You're actually just like setting up a way for like cool guy points or something like that. Yeah. Whereas, the little bit of genuine expression that a 14-year-old millennial had, is kind of like creative outlets and stuff. Like it wasn't an aura farm, or it wasn't, that wasn't actually like a real conception back then.
No, it was sort of like the idea of like, do you have any good writing? And like the response is, oh, we have hype moments and aura. And the thing is like good writing is going to create naturally its own like good story beats. It's going to make its own good product that's going to have those like hype moments, for lack of a better term. But now all they do is they just literally do the simulation of, oh, we need a hype moment here or whatever. And, they can't even like call back to like the cool, like metal grunge back in the day. I mean, like something like this just doesn't have the same sort of gravitas or certain like panache of like something like a Bionicle commercial from like 2003 or 2004. Those were like, they had good writing behind them, and they had like the aura farming moments, but like they were both intricately connected where you could have a through line. Like, of course, there's going to be like commercials and stuff like that.
And another comment here from Tasteful Fitness, most modern gamers have been exposed as limp-wristed. I don't care if there are interracial trans relationships in the game, just to make it so prominent. I mean, it's the problem. People are like just like passive consumers. It's like, just consume product. Why can't you just enjoy things? Well, no, we've got to have standards, otherwise you get this shit.
You must chimp.
You must chimp, and you got to have your specific like bylines that you're not going to like move on. I don't play video games anymore much because of this reason. And like, to the people who like actually like just go and say like, you know what, I'm just gonna like emulate everything because there's an infinite backlog of good games. It's like I can respect that position because anything that's produced now is just literally like not worth the salt. And like, what are you getting? Like some upgraded graphics? I'm sorry, gaming died when The Witcher 3 came out and they made the best graphics known to man. Everybody was hyping up CD Projekt Red, and then everything else past that is just like not even that good. And even The Witcher 3 had its own problems.
True. An unfortunate truth.
Yeah, in my view, The Witcher 3 was like the second Skyrim. It was just another, like, okay, it had good points, but it was just another, like, mediocrity, squared, essentially.
It was the pinnacle of the video gaming industry. Take it what it's worth, because if that's the pinnacle, then what is the state of the industry if that's what it is? And then like I just don't think that there's been anything that's been really good that's come out after then that doesn't have overt signaling and stuff like that. So it's just like, why even bother?
Well, to add to your point about going back and playing older stuff, other than emulators, you've also got GOG, which is basically owned by CD Projekt Red, and it's basically a platform similar to Steam where you can get older games from like years ago, and they've updated them to make them work on like modern machines. So, give them a try if you ever feel like playing something old.
Yeah, they've got a lot of great titles. My current problem with GOG and the little thing that gets in my shoe, the little rock, is that they don't even put like old games on there now. Now there's current releases that are released on GOG. So what's so grand about these games? What's so old about these games? They're sort of almost betraying their title and stuff like that. But no, they do have a lot of great stuff on there that you sometimes can't find on other platforms.
No, exactly. Right, let me go back to the Twitter feed, and oh yeah, I love this post, Melon. This is a review you had from someone. This is about the last stream. This redneck southern drawl combined for this posh British English together as a trip. What a time to be alive. Well, two things. I'm not that posh, really. I'm not. If you think I'm posh, you've not met an actual proper posh person. Well, to most British people, I'm posh, but I'd say Mr. D's posher than me, the King's posher than me, Apostolic Majesty's posher than me. I'm a plebs compared to them. But regarding Mike, I love your accent, and I think the Southern accent gets far too much hate. Southern pride worldwide.
Southern pride worldwide, of course, but I actually don't think I have that much of an accent. Like, really? I don't, like, in the large scheme of things, I mean, there's so many guys around me that...
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. You do.
Okay, well, fine.
If this is how you find out, I'm sorry, but you've got an accent.
It's Leviosa.
It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
Which, I mean, that's you guys remember like the Leviosa video, back when YouTube was much younger and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Back when virality was like 100 or like 40,000 views, not millions. Back when like all the hit things was like Harry Potter Puppet Pals and funny animation from like, I don't know, the old Flash animators, like the actual old Flash animators that used a now depreciated software called Flash.
Yeah, I remember Flash games. I remember having an iPod Touch and using a proxy to break out of the firewall rules for my school and playing Flash games. It's like,
what is Cool Math Games not cool enough for you?
No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. I'm trying to remember what the website was where it went. Yeah. Let's go. Yeah, we were demented as kids. We were so demented.
This was like so funny to me when I was 11, but now it's just fucked up.
I mean, like websites like Newgrounds, Congregate, what was the Kiwi Farm? Was not Kiwi Farms. Kiwi Games.
I think it was Congregate. I think I played on Congregate. I'm trying to remember. It had like a red ant as the logo or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's Congregate. That's Congregate.
Indeed. And
Ah,
I was going to say something else, but I've blanked on it now. We'll move on. I'll see if I can remember it. Right. That.
I mean,
Star
to
Runner.
all the people that said that like video games are like ultra violence and initiation mode. I mean, there was so much like demented stuff in Flash games. Back in the day, back in the Dizzy, that actually looking back on it, like all of the senseless, like inane, like kind of gore stuff. You're basically like killing kittens and shit like that. Like, I think a lot of us probably didn't realize the very severe implications of just like laughing and playing that all day. It's not like it turned us all into like ultra violence maniacs, but it probably turned us into something darker, maybe worse in some sense.
In many ways, it's gonna turn you into a murderer thing was like a limited hangout type misdirection. What it'll actually do is it'll like spiritually rape your mind forever.
Yes. Yeah.
Listen, man, I just wanted to have funny monkeys throw darts at balloons, all right? I didn't ask to be mind raped, but here we are.
I just wanted to play tower defense games, but alas, that's not the world we live in. Right. This is something Melon posted. It's all to. This, from what I remember, Melon, this is Generation Kill, this film from the 2008. So, in the late 2000s, it was okay to make fun of the greatest ally on TV, but only if it came from a low-status character. The audience may enjoy him for comic relief, but there was always an undercurrent of "you can't be like this guy," deeply subversive. So let's see if we can pull this clip up.
Oh, no, thank you, Lieutenant Commander. We got the warning order, so it looks like we're going to be moving out to kill a whole bunch more of these godless heathens for you. Yeah, but don't worry. We will not rest until the Iraqi threat to your way of worship has been completely neutralized.
I'm aware of the warning order, and it's for that reason that we are congregating right now for a brief service.
The other thing is that my team leader here, Sergeant Colbert, yeah, he was born a Hebrew and remains a practicing Christ killer. So, it's purely out of respect for him, I feel as if I'm going to have to forgo your festive rituals.
And I wonder if you would take.
Interesting. Really, we don't have anything like that nothing like that anymore.
Have to deal with the prospect of you returning to your cretinous daughter fucking trailer park red state shithole and producing mutant whiskey tango scrotum faced bucktooth zit exploding project. Again, the world would.
Lovely.
Yeah, you can't even insult somebody like that in the military anymore. They're going to file like a butt hurt feelings report. Pain.
Wow, that's actually worse. Right. Okay. Oh, got another one. So, good God, you're a woman. Noting that she shouldn't be there, it's a surprise rather than laughing it off, normalizing it. The billionaire genius approves of it if he's a bit apprehensive.
No one's allowed to talk? Is that it? You can't talk?
No, you intimidate them.
Good God, you're a woman.
Is it better to be feared or respected?
Yeah, and when this came out was first term Obama, so it's almost like in the Vietnam, when all the Vietnam movies hit, like right after the brunt of that. This was lauded at the time because it was the most realistic like superhero movie, and this is what catapulted 15 years of cape shit, because it was all these people with like the war on terror memories, and then this cool billionaire Superman guy.
Yeah, because AA's talked about this with like British films, like before the Labour came in '97, you had all like these films about how Britain was like run down and shit, and like films like Train Spotting, and then Blair comes in and it's all like gay, happy rom-coms. I kind of feel like you got the same with like Obama and Bush. Like you went from more negative stuff to more positive stuff when Obama came in, and then when Trump came back in, it all went to like crazy, nasty stuff again.
And this was sort of part of the era too, where people still watched films together. Like we didn't have this streaming services where we had like a shattered movie watching culture. Like you still went to the movies during this era. There were big releases that you would go and see, and everybody was talking about this much more so than they're talking about now. Like if you compare Endgame, for instance, where they've got like one of the most massively grossing movies of all time versus this is much smaller, but it had a much larger sort of like cultural impact. Everybody was talking about it versus that with Endgame, it's just like, oh yeah, I guess I saw that. Yeah.
Yep.
In fact,
Nail on
the
the
last
head.
time.
Sorry, Hitman.
Sorry. Yeah, the last time I watched a cape shit film, I think, was the original Avengers in 2012, and I've never seen another one since then, and I'm so blessed for having not.
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, that's like a really good point about like, yeah, it's interesting how massification has grown to such a size. The massification of culture has grown to such a size that there are diminishing returns, and thus like fracturing people and atomizing them into their own little personal media circus has like it was more like gainful, and like the the disembodied mind of the market saw fit to shatter us apart like this. And we got like years of cape shit. I mean, that's a really good point. Is like, it just took like the last death nail of what was like the old mass culture, into the shattered, deracinated mass culture, and the transition was like played seamlessly. And so now we're all bowling. We're bowling alone. We're all bowling alone now.
No, and just to quickly touch back on World of Warcraft again and bringing in Baudrillard, because Baudrillard talks about, you've got the 4 stages where you've got the original thing, then like a kind of aspect of it, then a more detached aspect, and then something that's like totally like alien from the original thing, and it's just like a copy of a copy of a copy. When you look at something like WoW, where people have hate what Blizzard are producing, you're getting all these people who are making like private servers and things like Ascension WoW, and again, it's just a copy of a copy of a copy. Or play World of Warcraft your own custom special way, and it's just like, so rather than people growing up and not playing MMOs anymore, I know I can just keep reliving WoW or Classic Plus, and it's just like an endless rehash.
What people love was the generative, like ascending part of that game, not the actual game. You need to seek out other things that are growing and good, and just do that instead.
Certainly, and you brought this thing up here about the 2008 Philadelphia recruitment army experience. So the centre is an attraction tool. There is no recruiting mission here, Hansen said. Here it is more about changing perceptions. The soldiers at the AEC don't have quotas. They don't wear traditional army uniforms, but rather black army polo shirts and khaki pants. They are from diverse backgrounds and have unique stories to tell. At first glance, they seem more like tour guides than army recruiters. In the sense, they are. They guide centre visitors through their tour of the facility. They are the army, Hansen said, and as the centre slogan states, the army is more than you think it is. Through market research and proven outreach tools like the America's Army game and the mobile virtual army experience, Hansen said the army learned that the best way for people to become acquainted with their army was for them to be able to touch, feel, and see the army in a non-threatening environment. By incorporating the lessons learned from and technologies of those outreach tools, officials believe the Army Experience Centre will make the army accessible to visitors. What we are doing here is reaching out to Americans, giving them the opportunity to understand their army, said Major General Thomas P. Bostick, head of the US Army Recruiting Command. Oftentimes people have a negative perception of the army, but negatives are a very small part. Our soldiers are well trained, well equipped, and serving a great mission.
Yeah, this is the beginning of real-time feedback propaganda, fully staffed with people that it is their job to manage, the oiling of the gears of the feedback system for propaganda. 110%.
And this was in 2008. And note how defensive this sounds. This was after, 3 years after Fallujah, 3 years after they were giving people felony waivers to get them into the infantry, and the surge, I think, was in 2007. People were very hostile towards military recruitment, and especially with the vibe shift under Obama.
I find it incredible that the US Army was literally allowing criminals to join because they badly needed recruits. Well, was pretty terrible.
Yeah, they didn't talk about it much, but yes.
Kind of sounds like the British Army in the 18th century. Well, you're guilty of rape. Well, we can either cut your cock off or you can go and fight overseas. I think I'll fight overseas, thank you.
I'll tell you which one I preferred.
Yeah, true.
The NSA was planning to actively infiltrate the entire gaming industry and create games with the specific purpose of being propaganda in order to sway how their players thought about real-life geopolitical events.
Remember, no rush.
We've sent a strong message with this attack, Makarov.
That was no message. This is a message.
The American thought he could deceive us. When they find out why, all of Russia will cry for war.
Pete,
I'm looking at fighter jets over I-95! How the hell did they get through?
stand by, attempting to contact the nearest unit in that sector.
I read you. This is 1st Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment. Sergeant Foley, acting commander of Hunter 2-1. Do you copy? Over.
All stations be advised. Satellite surveillance has been disabled. SOSUS and Mayflaw's arrays are inoperative at this time.
Washington Monument site been evacuated. Over.
Negative, 2-1. They're still pinned down by infantry and light armor from the World War II memorial. Doesn't look good from here. Over.
Copy, Overlord. We'll do what we can from the air. Out.
First wave of civilian transport is away. Recruit.
Ramirez, secure that bunker. Ramirez, shoot those bad guys.
You know, Modern Warfare 2 was such a spectacle. I mean, yeah, even with hindsight, it's actually kind of like hard to assess like how much of a spectacle. I mean, Call of Duty in total was, you know, up until like Black Ops 2, but you know, Modern Warfare 2 was something that absolutely every single young man has played at least sometime. If it wasn't them, they had a copy. They had played at least a little bit with their buddy at their house. I mean, it was such a spectacle, and I think you know, full service, in full service of you know, kind of the original point being made, which was, you know, kind of like a geopolitical kind of like influence campaign, you know, on young minds. You know, I think they knew what they were doing, or at least you know, the amount of negotiation that actually goes on with creators of media to make, especially film. Like, film is completely captured. If you want to show like real military equipment on screen, like you have a military guy that manages like part of your script. There's a guy that reads your script from the Army, you know, and approves it or doesn't approve it. I mean, you know, there's been films that have been made without approval, but you know, like this is something that's like deeply tied in, or was tied in from its inception, and the fact that they kind of knew that they were going to make a smash hit beforehand, yeah, you know, because of, you know, the massive captive audience from Modern Warfare 1. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there was definitely a ginormous propaganda operation. I mean, like teams of writers on both the creative side and probably on the Army side of this one as well.
No, and it's also interesting, isn't it, that is it any surprise that with the war in Ukraine that so many people are like frothing at the mouth anti-Russian. Well, when you raise them on a diet of what we've just watched, and you can understand why they think like that, because they've been programmed to.
Yep.
Right, got some more stuff on X. One moment. Okay. Hang on. Oh, there we are. This version of the returning Great War and Terror veterans and the subversion of gamers are two sides of the same coin. Yes, the combination of Great War and Terror and Xbox Live created a feedback loop that resulted in a lot of veterans or even active duty playing Halo and COD on Xbox and calling each other retarded. Can't say those words, which completely normalized the gamer words. This was already pretty normal going back to Quake 3 Arena, using GameSpy to find matches in 1999. Yeah, the video games were radicalizing the soldiers, or I don't know, maybe the soldiers were radicalizing the video games.
Well, this
Maybe
is
a little bit both.
Yeah,
Maybe.
and this... Go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just saying maybe a little bit both.
Yeah, this was a huge concern because I think we've all heard the story about the returning World War II veterans who found their town was corrupt when they got back and just took it over. I mean, this is a huge concern. Like, these guys are... Most GWOT veterans are like almost 40 or above at this point, but especially in the 2010s, they would have had a real problem on their hands if they organized correctly. I think there's a lot of ways they've misdirected this. I don't think... A lot of them seem to think they can shoot their way out of this problem, which I don't think is right. I think they've been like corralled into that cul-de-sac in a way. Ford, do you have any thoughts?
Well, one of the things, and I think Antelope Hill pointed this out, is that a lot of the vet bro culture is incredibly off-putting for most veterans to actually participate in. As a veteran myself, I do not want to participate. Oh wow, look at that! He's got it pulled right up. But he basically says just like this killed any threat of a political movement in the United States. In combination with poorly treating the veterans, not getting them VA benefits and stuff like that. There was still sort of like this open hostility towards soldiers when they came back. And you'll have sort of like this performative, oh, well, thank you for your service type thing if somebody does find out you're a veteran. But it's not one of those things that it's just like, okay, there's actually like a real community here and stuff like that. No, you've got most of them turn into either gun fags, where they turn into some sort of libertarian where they want to be left alone because they're completely dissuaded from entering politics whatsoever because they just don't see any hope. So I think there was probably a very real and concerned effort to do that sort of thing. I'm sure that there was a doctrine that goes all the way back to Vietnam that would do this sort of thing to veterans in America, because one of the big things with the world wars and any of the wars in the past is that this thing, like, veterans are going to be a problem for your stability of a place if you're going to they're going to be a problem to the stability of your like ruling class if they are allowed in. And the thing is like veterans are very focused on the mission. They're much more oriented to low they're able to grasp reality in a way that a lot of people who are focused on abstractions don't have. They don't have that skill to like just cut away all the bullshit and get done what they want done.
No, certainly. And just to extend this topic, I believe this is a conversation Melon had with someone about this, and it's the film was, and this is linked to the film Kingdom of Heaven, which was released in 2005, and yeah, we'll get into that in a bit and watch some clips because it's a very historically illiterate film and deeply subversive. So the film was always an ironic juxtaposition, a movie whose sole purpose was to make Americans feel guilty over the war in the Middle East, while their government imported Muslims. I'll have to cover that on the Millennial stream. Thought you might find it useful, look up the year it was released and you'll see why this is so important. In the same year I was in Fallujah and the military was giving out record numbers of felony waivers. 2005, yeah. Bingo, height of the war, often referred to as the swell because they needed bodies to fight in Fallujah. Ramadi and Nazariya since the push had thinned out the ranks in 2003, 2004. And let's bring up before we bring up the clip, Years has had to drop out for the evening, but she did send a super chat via Entropy. So for $3, I love you guys, and this has been an amazing stream for both old and new feels, but I have to head out for the night. I'll listen to the rest in the car tomorrow. Bless you all, White Heart. Well, thank you so much for your super chat, Years.
Yes, he is. Just a quick note as well. I think I'd only seen The Kingdom of Heaven maybe 3 years ago for the first time, and it was remarkable how ghastly that movie was. I mean, having this, Orlando Bloom as this protagonist that's kind of like this aloof, like essentially like non-Christian, like neutral guy was so. It was flummoxing, for me. It especially like not immediately connecting, immediately connecting it to like geopolitical, like proximate geopolitical goings-ons, because it's kind of out of context in this time now, was, man, like this doesn't make any sense. Like the narrative doesn't have like any moral weight at all, and he's just kind of like a neutral guy that's like the victim of circumstances, that led him to this position, but now he kind of has a heart but doesn't have a heart, but it's actually good that Saladin takes what are we doing here? Like the whole narrative just actually doesn't make sense as a film by itself without that context. It's insane. It's a bad movie, even though it's got some keynote parts.
Yes, and the thing is, what's notorious about it is that there's a theatrical release and then there's a director's cut, and people cope and say, "Oh, but the director's cut saves the film." No, it doesn't. It makes the plots a bit better, and yeah, the aesthetics are cool, but the subversiveness of the politics of the film are still bloody there. And so, no, the director's cut does not fix the sodding film. And
Yes.
sorry, one of the reasons I'm so angry about it is bit of a confession. When I was younger, that film was actually one of my favourite films, and it's only as I got older and learned more about it and thought about things more that I realised, oh wait, this film's completely horrible.
Well, it's because Crusaders are cool, Like Crusaders are awesome, and if you're going to be producing a show propaganda product like that in 2005 using the aesthetics of the Crusaders, you are ostensibly taking something that's timeless, something that's historic, something that is rooted in history and in the characters of the people there, and then you're just sort of cheaply making it for political gain. And I mean, it's not the same as like the slop that you see on the screen where it's just people making propaganda stuff that almost has no historic rooting, that has nothing real to it. But whenever you do look at something like The Kingdom of Heaven, which should ostensibly like have some real world like parallels, it's almost insulting to the face of it when you watch it.
No, certainly. And people are interested, and you've got some spare hours. Apostolic Majesty did a stream a few years ago with Columba and Furious Pertinax, absolutely demolishing the film. So people are interested, you can go and give that a watch as well. But let's bring the clip up.
May go into Karak, but you will die there. My master is here.
Salahdin, Jerusalem has come.
So remember, this is probably all the average chud remembers from this whole movie. It's like the white guy was in trouble, and my dog's barking, sorry, and then all the other white people showed up to help, and that's what the point of this movie was, in my opinion. It was to drive more people to fill the ranks of the infantry in 2005.
No, that's a very interesting insight. And but to get in more into it, but it's interesting, isn't it? It's the Muslims here are portrayed very favourably. It's because we cut out the beginning of the clip, but in the full clip, Balian's on the ground wounded, and the the guy he's talking to earlier in the film, he was actually in disguise, and his servant was pretending to be him, and Balin gets into a fight with him over a horse, and then Balin lets him go. So he's kind of returning the favor by saying, you let me live, I'll let you live, kind of thing. And yeah. And then, the Muslims are just presented to, we were just minding our own business, and then you horrible crusaders turned up and started like murdering us and raping people and whatnot. And, we guess we're going to have to kind of fight back. And just to contrast the portrayal of the Muslims versus the Christians, there is actually another clip I've got lined up from the film. I'm just going to put it up one moment. So...
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Speak.
The Sultan demands the return of his sister's body, the heads of those responsible, and the surrender of Jerusalem.
Does he?
What answer do you return to Salah ad-Din?
This. Take the head to Damascus. I am Jerusalem. Assemble the army!
So again, kind of adding on to what you said, Melon, I think, again, an attempt to try and rally people to go and fight, but also it just presents the Christians as complete, illogical retards. I know, I'm just going to kill the emissary herd. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, which is what the coast, that's what anyone who thinks they're white collar or leftist is going to pick up on that. The chuds at the time, especially, are just going to be like, yeah, we got them, and now I'm going to sign up. Like, unfortunately, that's what they would have thought at the time. This was 2005.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you've also got a clip here from Pete Q.
People who were adults at the time thought, oh, we thought that they were selling us a war and that everybody had lost their minds. Democrats, MSNBC had never flown a flag in the background on anything, and they started flying a flag. They fired, I think it was Jesse Ventura and Phil Donahue who were against the war. It was nuts.
Yeah, so people were getting canceled and fired and non-personed if they opposed this.
Oh, really? The Iraq War?
Yeah, it was really bad
wow.
over here.
Oh, wow. I never knew that. Wow. Not good.
And I mean, this is again pointing out, this is before the time of independent media, where, we really only had things turn around with independent media. I would say after 2015, 2016, maybe even later than that. Really, the real big push came in 2017 once people realized that they started just banning you off of a bunch of websites and stuff like that, where they're saying oh, we'll actually try to build something that's in parallel here. But you still sort of have this strange deference to the mainstream media, but there's no other tool of messaging back in those days. Not something that was large. You only had your wits about you that you were able to really determine that sort of stuff.
Yeah, there was a huge amount of people that got the spooks and got the shakes because they saw, every single person that was anti-war, like them, shit canned and sent packing. So this is the beginning of a whole bunch of different things, culminating in kind of an internet kind of like vaguely, suspicion or something vaguely suspicious about the government and like messaging control and something. That was like the whole impetus for like even thinking about, trying to be a kind of like news guy on the internet in any serious respect, because like a lot of people were ideologues about like, kind of like free speech, or at least like, free speech about the thing that they cared about. And, that was nixed off the television. So they felt like they couldn't be passive anymore. So it made a bunch of like internet messaging, like ideologues, as well. And that was like a trend that continued on after that.
Again, it's interesting just to compare it to the war in Ukraine, where now, like, not that many people are up for it. Where in 2005, it was like, more people were up for it and they could easily cancel people, where now you've got a lot more, dissident voices over it who they can't cancel.
Yeah, I think the general structure of like the consensus around the Ukraine war would be, like even in 2005, even in 2014, there would be vastly more people who would be like, yeah, we're fighting a war with them, what of it, I don't really care about it. Whereas now you have a much more vocal anti-war type of people really stepping up and saying that they want this sort of thing. I mean, that's sort of like the animus that really helped Donald Trump get into office, because they don't want war anymore. They hated war. They saw what war got them for the past 20 years, and they don't want anything to do with it. War isn't popular with GWAT veterans. It isn't popular with the younger generation. It's kind of popular with like the older generation, where it's like, oh, we need to like secure our interests, and you get the one or two odd Zoomer dispensationalists. But now war is just so incredibly unpopular because of how that was handled and what the culture was like. And I don't think there was even really like a propaganda arm that would be strong enough to really convince us to go to war now.
What we're going to do is get rid of all these buttons and just make a giant screen. A giant screen. Now, how are we going to communicate this? We don't want to carry around a mouse, right? So what are we going to do? Oh, a stylus, right? We're going to use a stylus. No. No. Who wants a stylus? You have to get them and put them away, and you lose them. Yuck. Nobody wants a stylus. So let's not use a stylus. We're going to use the best pointing device in the world. We're going to use a pointing device that we're all born with. We're born with 10 of them. We're going to use our fingers.
Now, I remember a lot of resistance to this when it came out in like my working class area, actually. I didn't get a smartphone until like 2014. What about you guys?
Well, as I said already, I didn't get one until 2018, so pretty late. So
let me see. I'm trying to remember, because I had a Sidekick, flip phones, all that sort of thing. It would have been because in high school I had an iPod Touch, but I still had a dumb phone. I had like some variation of some like stupid flip phone in high school. And then I think it was probably like the end of high school, probably like my junior or senior year, that I got a smartphone, if I think right. And I think it was an iPhone, yeah. It was like an iPhone 3, something like that.
Yeah, and this.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I didn't get an actual like smartphone until I joined the military, so it was quite later in my life. And I remember thinking to myself, in high school, when I had the option to get one, I was just like, well, I see what most people do on their phones, and it's not really productive work, and I don't think it's useful. So I mostly stuck to like one of those like pay by the text phones while I was in high school. And I think I'm better off for it, not letting these things really eat into your mind in those developmental years.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I didn't get a smartphone till so late, because I saw how they could distract people. Right, got some more clips.
I love weed. I smoke weed every second of every day.
Hey, I am your stoner.
So
Oh God.
Yeah, two things that are horrible for humans: weed and smartphones. Same year.
Yeah, the rise of the dude weed stoner has to be kind of the worst developments in the West, like maybe ever. Yeah, the stoner obsession and the dude weed obsession that came out of this era is horrible. It's so unbelievably horrible. And you got all levels of cope that actually like kind of dug into the mainstream from here as well. You know, whenever like actual like activists were trying to get weed legalized state by state with no, it's actually good for you. It cures cancer. It cures this. It cures glaucoma. You know, it's good for your skin. You know, like the most like brain dead stuff. Like anyone could see that that is plainly not true. It does not do these things.
No, it cures your ability to think.
Yeah, well, that's really what it came down to is the reason why it's allowed now. I mean,
I don't need to cure it with weed. I can just bludgeon myself with 2x4s.
Yeah, I mean, even states like mine, Tennessee now, we don't have state legalized weed, but we do have the Farm Bill, which means that any compound, whether psychoactive or not, that's derived from hemp plants, as long as it's not actually genetically a real weed plant, you know, if it comes from hemp and you freaking, you know, put all the bud flowers into like some sort of crazy chemical extractor and shit and distill it and all this stuff and make legal, what we colloquially call legal weed, you know, like it's totally fine. It's totally allowed. And now we have legal weed stores on every single counter in every town. It's horrible.
It needs to stop.
Yeah, I smell weed when I walk around far too often.
I'm sorry. You can go ahead.
Yeah, when a sensible base government takes power one day, I will request that flamethrowers are taken to all weed plants and it's just destroyed off the face of the fucking earth.
Based.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of Zoomers have nearly as much of a problem with weed. Like, it's still a problem in the fact that it exists and that they're able to take it. Now they have, now they're all vaped. They're all vaped. Faggots with their anxiety pains.
It's so much worse, man.
Oh, but you know, they put like THC in it and stuff like that. But like, I would have to say like the rise of the dude weed thing. Like, I don't know if this is like an older millennials thing. Is this an older millennials thing? Because I always grew up looking at it with disdain.
Well, so there was there's still a bunch of loser millennials on Discord playing RuneScape, smoking weed. So it is a lot of younger millennials, I would say, unfortunately.
Yeah,
there's a pretty uniform coding on all the millennials for the all ages of millennials for the dude weed thing. I mean, and now, like, I think your point on the Zoomers and weed kind of falls flat because, I mean, hell, in Tennessee, you know, like, we have probably 5 or 6 of these, like, emergency, like, a 16-year-old kid buys some of these legal weed gummies and, like, gets basically, like, locked-in syndrome for 2 days and stuff. Like, we have, like, 6 of those a day, you know, in Nashville hospitals. You know, hell, there was, like, a kid at my mom's gym that did it, and he took, like, you know, 2 or 3 of these, like, stupid, like, chemical extract, like, weed gummies, and essentially, like, went insane for 2 days and, like, had to be in a hospital. And then he was like, oh, okay, I'm back alive. Like, it's horrible.
Hard to disagree, Vingle. Weed is bad.
Yeah, hard to disagree. And I'll give Vingle some credit here. Smoking it isn't terrible. If you're buying, especially 10 years ago, if you're buying bud from some Mexican and smoking it, that's not as bad as the stuff we have now. The stuff we have now is not good. It makes people schizophrenic and insane.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think Sean brings up a good point here that, you know, weed became super popular because boomer helicopter parents filled their children with anxiety and neurosis. Same reason why benzos and Xanax. Yeah, no, I would believe that. I would believe that if you're looking for some way to escape, and if
Yeah,
you're
it
looking
could
for
be.
some way to manage expectations and manage dealing with the stress of like this super gay world that we deal with, which I don't know about you guys, but I think high school was particularly bad for millennials and Zoomers. Like with the iPhones, with the ability to be recorded and have your life destroyed, with the distractions in the classroom, with the flood of immigrants in the classroom, it's not surprising that somebody would want to turn to drugs for
Well,
escapism with
it's
that.
interesting you say that, Ford, because I didn't have the immigrants problem. Thankfully, I'm in an extremely racist county.
Oh,
So that
lucky
was nice.
you.
But
Lucky.
a ton of normal like 15-year-old male behaviors got like pathologized as school shootery, and I remember that being a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like unless like there were only like a few exceptions where that accusation wasn't thrown around. It was really like people got henpecked and like, oh, he's gonna shoot up the school. It was ridiculous. Like the paranoia was insane, and I understand why people would want to escape it.
No, and speaking of anxiety,
Pen. I'm sorry that I have anxiety. Okay, and honestly, yeah, it is kind of the fault of people like you that want to come up here and bully and berate me over something that I don't do. Okay, so cut the shit. It's not a vape. All right, it's an anxiety pin, and God, the amount of times that I've asked you to respect me and respect my anxiety pin is at this point getting ridiculous, Cody. So please,
Justified crash out.
For the final and for the billionth time, will you please just respect the fact that it's not a vape and that it's an anxiety pin?
well, enough of that. But what a wanker.
I'm just going to throw this out here. The vaped.
Yeah, the vaped. Dude, I saw Linda post that. Yeah, I saw Linda post that earlier. Dude, that is a really great way to describe it. This guy has been mind vaped. Yeah, 110%. You know, he's talking about a CBD pen. He's talking about a CBD vape. Like, it is... Dude, oh my God. This makes me so unbelievably mad. Like,
I respect the energy, though. Like, we got told to shut up too much, I feel like. I mean, I respect unrestrained, autistic young male energy. I think we need more of it.
Yeah, we need more white males screeching.
Let me take a selfie.
So true.
Oh, man. Oh, I'm having flashbacks like a motherfucker now.
Yeah, I'm...
So what? What
Sorry.
psyop was this? Was this to get everybody's face on the internet? Explain this to me, Ford. Why did they do this?
I couldn't tell you if there was a specific like psychological operation going here, but I think this is really when photography shifted from "let me show you something cool" to "let me show you where I am." It became, and this criticism sort of like this is a boomer criticism, right? You know, like, oh, these kids with their narcissistic selfies. No, it is. It's kind of just, it's not showing, it's conveying without words like where you are, what situation you're in, and it's sort of like a simulation of like what you are presenting forward to the world. And of course, social media continues to sort of push this forward. Now it's less selfies. Now everybody just has a darn podcast nowadays, or has some sort of video thing going on where they're able to say like, or where they're able to present in a different manner.
Yeah, I think this goes with like the natural progression of social media companies and kind of like VC culture, kind of like trying to find the trend that pushes rather than pulls. And so they like the selfie trend, I think, was like, great marketing opportunity is what like the light bulb that went on above the VC guys' heads, and they were like, let's actually do a marketing trend thing here. I don't think this was necessarily a psyop as much as it was like, hey, you know, more engagement, more users, more growth, blah 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 blah.
Okay,
like all
you
the
might be
natural
right,
things.
and I'll tell you why, Mike. They added they stopped what they were doing in World of Warcraft and added a selfie option, including animations and like a fully functional interface with Twitter.
Yep.
When this happened, which speaks to your point.
Yep. It's an engagement thing. Like before we really called it engagement. I think back then they called it user growth.
No,
Which they
I'll
still
call
kinda,
this. I'll call this a psyop. If it's something that's conducted on like to get people to buy in on something like that, I mean I view most of marketing as a psyop.
Yeah.
And most of any sort of engagement as sort of like a psychological operation. Because I mean this is really trying to pull somebody towards posting stuff, and you can post endless pictures of yourself too. As far as content goes, I mean, there's endless opportunities. There's endless variations. There's almost endless iterations of getting more content onto the platforms to drive engagement.
Yeah, and so you're right that it was a I just meant not specifically like some sort of like government spook psyop or anything like that. I just don't see the impetus there. I mean,
yeah, no, probably not a government one.
Yeah,
I think that's a little bit schizo for me.
Yeah, I don't think facial recognition technology and like I don't think they were really amassing biometric stuff like that until fairly modern. I'm sure they've got in that huge data center in Utah or whatever, they've got like petabytes and petabytes of data, like essentially like all the internet backed up. Like I'm sure they're going back through and doing all the biometrics on these pictures now. Right, but at the time, I don't think that was the impetus for this kind of marketing trend.
A point I want to make is regarding smartphones and selfies. This is something Durkheim actually talks about with culture, because from pre-industrial societies, they're called mechanical solidarity, where you feel secure because everybody's like you. You're like a farmer in like some rural area, and then when you have an industrial society, that's called organic solidarity, because though don't have the same role of profession as everyone else, you're dependent on the society as a whole for the different roles they do. And I feel like with selfie culture, it's almost like we're homogenizing everybody into like a new organic solidarity via the internet, where you're, instead of associating with like a local culture in your region, you're now just in this like globalized, digital like culture, and you're totally deracinated from any like local identity or loyalty.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there. Yeah,
it does seem like people are really fucking lost. This is like grasping for, I don't know what this is, but it's dysfunctional.
Well, I mean, it's sort of like whenever you have something like this defining like a part of your lived experience, which is a gay term, I know, as far as like how you grew up, this. I completely lost the train of thought of where I was going with this, but
good job, Ford. Got him.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I should write notes down. It's that social media brain going on again. I just found something new on my Twitter feed to get fixated on. I'm just kidding. Something like this, really, there's a part of a consensus because everybody does it. It sort of builds familiarity that way. It's
you got Obama phone?
Yes, everybody in Cleveland, low minority got Obama phone. Keep Obama in president, He gave us a phone.
He gave you a phone?
Do more.
How do you give you a phone?
You sign up if you on food stamps, you on Social Security, you got low income, you disability.
Hey, I have a question. Okay, what's wrong with Romney again?
Romney, he sucks. Bad. Obama.
You got Obama phone.
Dude, the Obama phone was such a phenomenon because like people liked to pretend that wasn't real when it was 110% real. I mean, what people had this uncomfortable disconnect of being kind of like a default liberal, where they did have to kind of cope with the fact that the Cash for Clunkers program totally destroyed the used car market. They had to cope with the fact that, like the Obama phones were like a real thing. And then, there was this whole cognitive dissonance around, like justifying all of this stuff and in trying to refute the claims of like welfare queens and stuff like that to Republicans. And it was like, But it was real, like that they were literally handing out bags of Obama phones, like anywhere and everywhere. Like this was a real thing.
No, certainly.
No, it's true, and it's one of those interesting things with I think millennials and maybe a little bit of very very late Zoomers too, is that there was almost like this very very like heavy liberal culture encapsulated into um, encapsulated in basically everything. Like you couldn't escape liberal priors in almost anything that you did. The entire education system was liberal.
Yeah.
This phenomena was liberal, and like having a healthy disconnect from that when you're young, it's like, okay, this is all like fake and gay, and I'm not going to engage with that. And then maybe you evolve into a based millennial or a based Zoomer because of it. I think just the amount of disconnect from the systems that we grow up in from reality just lends to having more and more people uninterested in buying into the priors. So I don't know what that means for society as a large. I hear it does either wonders or disasters for Zoomers on this upcoming generation, even Generation Alpha. But it's very strange that there was just sort of like that almost bias in almost everything that we did. And it's one of those things of like you almost have to kill like your very early assumptions as a millennial if you're going to be engaging in politics in the spaces that we do, because we still do that. There's plenty of people who still have their priors that they just don't catch themselves on. Even if we like read all of Carlyle, or we read Baudrillard, we still have these sort of things lurking in our assumptions.
Indeed.
No,
Yeah,
certainly. And
or go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say, I appreciate Vingle quoting Bill Hicks here. Today, a young man on acid realized that all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration. Carry on.
So you were talking about priors. Just to share an anecdote from the North Carolina thing. I thought I had internalized that like demons are a real thing, but I hadn't until we basically encountered one. And Ford knew, because I think he was a bit younger, and he wasn't still. It's different when you encounter it in the real world. Like you think you've moved on from these sorts of priors, but you haven't until you like encounter something that shatters it, and then it.
Yeah, and I would actually like to get a little bit off topic here and jump on top of that. It's interesting, and this is why I push guys to deal with people in the real world. Like you need to engage in sort of like an adversarial sense towards these liberals, because a lot of the stuff is like theory when it's online. It's like kind of like how Pete said a couple of months ago, is that we're still not past the philosophy stage of a lot of stuff. Until you actually go out and engage with these people and see the disastrous effects of what they think, the disastrous effects of their priors, the disastrous effects of what it does to your mind, and you're able to actually like internalize that and say like, oh no, it's bad. It's worse than just like, oh, this is a goofy liberal on a screen. It's everywhere. It's prevalent. It's prevalent everywhere, and it requires like actually interfacing with the real world. And this is why I encourage like a bunch of young guys, and I encourage most of our guys to actually go out and be in the real world, engage with Republican politics if you need to, because it actually is a unlearnable lesson until you actually see how it works in the real world. I mean, I probably had like this weird like pseudo atheist belief in all of school, because that was just the assumption, and like it took years for me to kill that intellectually before I was able to move past it. Even now I find myself sliding back into that until I remind myself of later lessons of real world experiences, because if it doesn't happen to you in the real world, it almost doesn't exist.
Yeah, and because a lot of millennials' formative years are long. I mean, every millennial's over 30. I'll say that again. You have it. This is you can't let off the gas pedal on this. Like you're gonna have to fight your priors basically forever. and it can be done, but it takes constant application of your will, basically.
Yep.
Yeah. One thing I will say on this is I mentioned in the last stream that I'm not Christian and I wasn't raised one, though I did go to a Christian primary school. There are some priors though which I now hold, which I didn't previously. So like when I was growing up, the idea of a woman having an abortion and it being okay was kind of like unquestioned, like nobody really had a problem with it. And it's only later on when I kind of realized, like, actually, hang on a minute, this is wrong. Why do we allow this?
Hold the phone. Hold the fort. What's this? We're killing kids for fun?
Yeah,
Maybe that's evil.
Yeah, that's something that I think that is a more European problem. I mean, there's always been this conglomeration of some amount of religious conservatism, even though kind of ineffectual in its way to like kind of rein in some of these excesses of modernity, like abortion, in America. And it's interesting to see the dichotomy there between Europe, where it like had an early adoption and like a high like liberal total victory success rate, for a very long amount of time, until now it seems like more of an issue now, especially with like Ireland. If I'm not mistaken, they've gone back and forth on the abortion issue, have they not?
Well, no, they actually had it banned until 2019, and then they legalized it. And there's this horrendous clip of like people celebrating in the streets. It's repulsive.
Oh, okay, I was misinformed.
And what's even worse is that with Britain, anyway, Mike, we legalized abortion in the 1960s, but it was not crazy. It was like, I think 24 weeks was the limit, and we never kind of touched it again. However, in the past few weeks, Keir Starmer's government have made the limit up to birth. So yeah, we have up to birth abortions now. Fan-fucking-tastic.
Oh, that's disgusting. That is morally, I mean, all of these people that are involved in this are moral reprobates. I mean, yeah, I would say stronger things, but I'm going to end up.
Yeah, and allow me to apologize on behalf of all the based Americans that you have to effectively engage in politics in Britain as like almost a liberal proxy state. That's suffering right there. You get the worst of the accelerants of the accelerationist policies off of the back of us because they want to stick it to the man,
Yeah, same thing with Canada, kind of.
Yeah, it's just bad.
Well, London is a node of subversion, as is New York and other places.
So true.
Right, we've got more clips.
In the Crenshaw district, where a peaceful gathering in Leimert Park to protest the Zimmerman verdict.
Peaceful gathering?
A group of mostly younger people starts marching, but soon runs wild in the streets of South LA. A tactical alert is in effect.
LA.
Officers move in, declare an unlawful assembly, and start making arrests.
So this was the same year as the Obama phone, by the way, that's weird. So you're handing out.
Wow.
I'm really
saying it that
think
long
about this.
Sorry,
So
but
you
most
hand
peaceful
out-
protests.
And most black people didn't have computers, by the way. Did you know that? They didn't have any way you
Wow.
could message them other than the TV, which, worked, but they were probably off doing something, sitting on their stoop or something, rather than watching television. But as soon as they have the Obama phone, then you can just put something in front of them, and they'll do this.
Yeah, no, it's the beginning of BLM and organized street protest in big scare quotes around that one. This became such like a normal like mainstay. Like you could basically set a watch to like how many Category 4 like Chimpouts like we have in America, like at any given year. You could literally set a watch, or if all the calendars were destroyed, in some sort of weird only affects calendars like Cataclysm, we could rebuild the calendars just based on how often these have happened since then.
No, certainly. And just to address a comment in the chat off the back of the abortion thing, yeah, Sean Wyland, that's the part that really fucks me up. People celebrating abortion, that's worse than celebrating putting down dogs. But it's funny because I mentioned Britain putting the limit of abortion up to birth. Recently, Rupert Lowe, the only sensible MP we have in Parliament, got in hot water because he decided to put down his dying dog the old-fashioned way by taking it out behind the shed and shooting it. And all the same people that supported increasing the limit on abortion were the same people who said, "Oh, you're evil, like you're cruel to animals." I'm like, what? Hello, pot calling kettle black. Hello, it's just, ugh.
Yeah, that ties into the millennial dog mom bullshit. So there is like this thing where people view dogs as better than babies now.
Yeah, fur babies. Yeah. I mean, if we want to jump back over to Tumblr, I mean, you know, that is such a core millennial website, you know, that probably had its hand in birthing a lot of things, like regular reinforcement of you know, different sexual degeneracies, as well as you know, the birth of the fur baby, you know, cat mom, dog mom thing. You know, the anthropomorphization of pets into something that like has a soul, and the soul is actually more pure than, you know, human souls. In fact, in a weird turn, it's kind of like catastrophically like Protestant and anti-Protestant at the same time, because it encapsulates like this idea of like the original sin of like humans, but you know, your liberal mind is like, well, everything has souls, which, you know, like everything is a creation of God, like, sure, you know, but it's a weird twisting of like kind of the fundaments of theology into like this new thing that's like been twisted into a strange form on this like one site on the internet, or you know, that one site on the internet, you know, absorbing influences and then re-excreting those influences into like other places like Pinterest and in more female centric sites, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of like the idea that libtards don't know things. They don't know facts and statistics. They don't know priors. They don't understand anything. They just have what they're given, and it's nothing examined. They've got basically all of what they give you. But I'm not sure if that's just a purely millennial thing. But it's sad to see. Sad to see. You hate to see it.
No, and going back to the pets again, one thought I've got, Mike, is I noticed that obviously children, I find, tend to get very attached to pets and animals. So you can almost say that, you know, these you know, the dog mums, it's almost like it's an infantilized adult, the fact that they cling to the animal so much.
Yeah, it's easier than growing up and actually like having children and being responsible and having a family and all that. It's easier, and so actually putting, you know, saying that they have like a soul equal to humans, it actually makes it easier to cope with the fact that you're not a real person. You're not an adult. You're not adulting. You know, to use a horrible.
So dark. You're right. That's yeah. It's like they're viewing them as a human soul. Oh, dude. Dark.
Yeah, millennials are not good. Cast them into the ocean. Like
we're all boomers here.
And instead of them TND, TMD, total millennial death.
Absolutely. You know, I will proudly stand atop that pyre whenever it's lit up, whenever they start pouring the gasoline. Look, I'm sorry. Our time has come and gone. You know, it's time to purge the earth of our sickness.
We earned this.
Yep.
It's time. It's death athletic.
Look out! My God, I didn't even see him. Nice work, Zemmem. You did what you had to. You're a hero. That may be true, but I'll have to live with this the rest of my life, even though I'll be walking around a free man. Hey, wait a minute. This kid isn't black. He's white. Wait, what? Guilty!
So this was Chimpout 2.0 after Trayvon, or was this Trayvon Martin? I forget. There's so many. Dude, there's been too many Chimpouts. But this was the first time I heard the term white Hispanic.
Yeah, it was completely created out of thin air. Yeah, which, it's interesting that, that has been kind of like in law on like government forums like for a time, but its absorption into media narrative was like a completely fictional construct. Baudrillardian. You could say it was naively Baudrillardian to kind of like absorb that into a new media message cycle about how you should feel about these things, and it created once again another simulacra of like the real interactions of people of different races actually have in this country in order to manufacture, Chimpout 2.0, exactly to your point.
And before we move on, there's another clip on the bookmarks I wanted to share because it addresses something we talked about last time. So in the last stream, we did address a certain Subversive of Johnny Bravo clip with a song. Well, it turns out me and Melon didn't do enough research, and Not Me, Not You corrected us. And apparently this character, he gets, let's just say he gets in some trouble. So...
Hold up there, fella. What's the matter, Johnny? Oh, hello, ladies. I can explain, really.
Hey, girls. What say we go make a wish? I think that's a fine idea. Oh, please. I've never seen anything quite like that.
Temporary insanity, ladies. That's what it was. What a jerk. Hold up.
Yeah, so basically BTFO male feminists.
Yeah, so Not Me, Not You's right. I didn't do my research. They do get him at the end. But it is interesting that I don't remember this part. I almost feel like the sensitivity thing was like the signal and not the noise. The same way the Russia thing was.
The thing is that you're always allowed to walk it back if you make a catchy schoolhouse rock song of it. Yeah. Do you think people remember that it got his comeuppance? I guess you didn't. But
exactly.
But I'm not. Look, I'm not saying one way or the other. I'll say do your own research. But maybe there is some subversion still going here. Maybe Johnny Bravo show producers from Cartoon Network aren't as virtuous as we thought they were.
Yeah, I mean, considering how many of them basically like advocate for let's say not good treatment of children, leave it there. Especially like we see this all the time with showrunners and writers and stuff of these different like children's cartoons and stuff like that. Like hell, it was like Darkwing Duck or something, where that guy had posted, this is my favorite character we've made. Look at this sassy Latina coming to destroy your ego. And they fired him. They fired him because they were like, dude, we already have a bad enough reputation for basically advocating for essentially not good treatment of children. So like we can't stomach this anymore. And so, because we all know they've got like children's entertainment, and the birth of it at the beginning of our generation is probably it led to enabling some very, very bad characters.
Yeah, and then of course, instead of getting beaten over the head and say no, act normal, you found a Tumblr group that said yes, you may enjoy the copulence with the toaster.
Yes,
it's a unique situation, I would say.
Yeah, no, certainly. And another thing I wanted to address from the previous stream is we talked about Harry Potter and Richard Harris, being fondly remembered for playing Dumbledore. Well, millennials may remember Richard Harris for playing Dumbledore, but Zoomers are going to remember him for playing someone quite different.
Yes, sir.
The king is not England. And England is not the king.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great edit. I mean, that is a fantastic edit, but not necessarily. Like I'm an American. Like I don't have really as deep a feeling about Cromwell as probably most British folk do. But the edit goes hard.
Yeah, this is interesting because I talked last time about I think wise men knew ahead of time that people born in our era were going to be completely captured by media. And I think they did leave some seeds that would be used later in ways that there's no way a normal person could have predicted. And this is an example of it, in my opinion. Stuff like this.
No, exactly. No, I appreciate where you're coming from Mike, but considering the cursed island I live in, we need a new Cromwell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? The king now has the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever.
He won't. Let's everybody calm down. Everybody calm down now.
Sorry,
just to illustrate the point. The Prince and Princess of Wales, marking Black History Month for recognising the incredible contributions of the Black community, not just this month, for every day of the year. This year's theme of proclaiming narratives encourages us to shine a spotlight on the untold stories, the unsung heroes, and the everyday individuals making a big difference. So yeah, that's why we need a new Cromwell for that shit.
Yep.
Right.
Yikes. And that's a big yikes for me, dog.
Right. Okay. Some other stuff. Right. Okay. Ah, yes. Good old Depression Quest.
Yeah,
I never played this.
I don't know if you want to read this. This is pretty rough to read, but this is like a time capsule of millennial. I guess it's mostly millennial women who did stuff like that. Well, I mean, this is like Tumblr-esque, don't you think, Mike?
Yeah, this is definitely Tumblr-esque. I mean, this kind of like autofiction, like, because we got the birth of kind of like blog-esque autofiction from Tumblr, in the style of post that was kind of like devised there, and it was kind of like the beginning of assembling like the complete internet mask as well. So I would say that there is a line. It's not totally clear how this directly ties into Tumblr, but this is Tumblr-esque, of course.
Yeah, and this whole sort of autofiction thing, if we want to talk about autofiction for a quick second, it relates to like how tabletop RPGs are now a form of autofiction. It's less about role playing now. It's less about just being a stoic warrior or something like that. It's now, here's your self insert, and you can do whatever you want with them.
Yep, and it turns like most play sessions into like people just trying to have sex in the game, and it's horrible. It's so horrible.
Certainly, and Zoe Quinn. Yeah.
Dude, can you guys believe
that's rough.
that this Foyd was the reason, was the cornerstone of Gamergate?
She's responsible for all of it, man. She undid all of it. All of our like childhood basically is her fault. She did it.
Look at this toothy bitch. Oh my god, dude.
What a witch.
Oh man.
She took it all from us, and we will never forgive her.
So the TLDR here is that this woman was fucking like 5 different people who were in games journalism, which was still relevant back then because people would go onto major websites or on television to see if a game was good. And then people figured this out because her, at the time, boyfriend made a blog post about how this woman was like fucking 5 dudes behind his back. And people latched onto that because her game sucked so much. But it wasn't because to attack her. It was because, well, wait a minute, she's getting reviews from the people that she's banging to promote her thing. Like she's getting clout off of this, and then people, and of course, like this is like gamers not understanding how the world works, right? But this was the key to them figuring out how everything else in politics works. Was like this woman and figuring out who the pay to play type stuff and what gets promoted, what actually makes money. Like, people thought it was a meritocracy. Like, it was almost libertarian in a way.
Yeah, it took only one singular clout hoe to destroy everything.
Sorry, gamers, the Foyd slag gets the article.
Oh, Sean Ryland, yeah. Back when G4 was on cable TV. I don't know if you remember G4, but dude, I remember when I was a kid, I was binging G4 like crazy. And then they brought if you guys remember, they brought G4 back there for a little bit before all the hosts had a libtard implosion like 4 weeks in or something like that. So yeah, I mean, good riddance, goodbye G4. It was fun when I was a kid, but we must grow up and put these childish things down. Sorry. Bye-bye.
Zoe Quinn, the face that launched 1,000 chuds.
Yeah.
Ugh. Well, time for more gaming stuff. Right, where is that?
I used to be an adventurer like you, and I took an arrow in the knee.
Okay, this is the archetype. Oh yeah. Good.
What is this? Do you think this is funny? Shut up! You're like the 26 millionth person to type this fucking joke into the internet! Do you think people care? No, you dumbass!
So there was millennial memes, are they just take something out of a piece of media and repeat it until it's exhausted, and there's a backlash against it. And this is a perfect example. Somebody spent like 100 hours making this animated short because they were so sick of seeing that getting typed in comment sections.
Based, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, it's also kind of the thing of like violence equals funny too. So even the response to the millionth joke made is let's have more violence to show how unfunny it is. So even in its critique, it subsumes to the form of you guys aren't funny.
Yes.
And going back to Mike again, it's more bordery because we've got to copy, the meme must replicate.
Yeah, no, it's like chain messages, and so like the birth of chain messages as well. Yeah, I mean, replication is the theme of modernity. Like post 1990, it's quite literally on its face. Like the main like reoccurring theme is everyone should be entrained to replicate. It gets you because like this kind of social media interaction as the normie came online, Web 1 or 2.0 really started. The repetition of the joke made it funnier. This is where we actually got the birth of what is actually viral, in the new sense of viral. Yeah, I don't like replication. No more replications. Only single use quips from now on out. If you want to be anti-Baudrillardian and anti-excess of modernity.
Just to address something from Charlemagne. Are you guys going to talk about Ninja Sex Party? No, didn't even think of that, Charlemagne. Oh my god, it's like a whole other can of worms.
I've never heard of this. What is this?
So
you don't know?
No.
Yeah, so it's the band that's run by bloody what's his name? It's the Game Grumps co-host. Oh, so it's Aaron
Dan.
And Dan, that's it. So it's Dan Avidan, the co-host of Game Grumps, has got a friend, and they have a band, and it's just doing like covers of like songs from the 70s and 80s. It's a bit cringe.
Yeah, that sounds cringe. I don't think I'm gonna look that up.
Oh yeah, Danny Sexbang. Yeah.
What, you don't want to listen to the angelic voice of Danny Sexbang?
Dear oh dear. Well, I've got another scarring clip I want to share. Right, hang on, let me find it.
Yeah, and then Rorschach goes, I'm nutty! And everyone thought I was really funny.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, did you see there's a teaser out for the new Elder Scrolls game?
Whoa, wait, they're doing a new one? Really? God, I love the last two!
Yeah, it doesn't really show anything though. It's just some old guy doing a voiceover.
Oh man, you've got me excited now.
Don't get too excited. You always get way too worked up about trailers.
What? No, I don't.
But there is one they fear. In their tongue, he is Dovahkiin, Dragonborn.
Holy shit, what is this? Forged in God's very flames. Do mine eyes tell me lies? A new Elder Scrolls game. Time is nigh, I must fly, venture forth on my quest. Goodbye Ma, goodbye Pa, and goodbye girlfriend's breasts. I'll be off as a rough. Catch you later, Hyrule. I'll be gone, I'll be on. I'm no longer your fool. The crab filled the gap while I waited to begin the adventure of my life in the land of Skyrim.
Man, this gun barrel tastes so good. This gun barrel is tasting so good.
It does.
Oh my god! Yeah,
I itch on the roof of my mouth that I got to scratch with the gun barrel.
Wow, I forgot how bad everything is horrible. I give up.
It was, yeah.
No, but this was the shit back in the day. Don't you remember? This was funny. This is what we had for humor.
Yeah, dude, we had terrible senses of humor. Let's forget this ever happened.
Speaking of terrible sense of humor, Mike, did the taste of that gun, did it blow your mind?
It really did. I mean, flavors I've never tasted before. Yep. Oh man, gonna go back to that meal later on after the stream.
Right. Ford, I know, needs to leave us very shortly, so I guess we should wrap up.
Sure.
Yeah. And oh my god, we've not even got through half, I think, what we wanted to get through. Bloody hell.
No, there's a lot. It's Sean commented on this. There's a lot of cultural anthropology, I think this phrase he used. That a lot of stuff got memory hold, and some of it deservedly so, but a lot of stuff did get memory hold.
Sean says it's a total mystery why the TFR is in the toilet.
No clues. We picked up no clues on these streams. None.
Yeah.
Yeah. All I have to say is, I mean, there's at least two things I completely forgotten about, which people in the chat have reminded me of. Thanks, Charlemagne and Vingle. Right. Well, thank you guys for doing this. I don't know if we're going to be mad enough to do another one in future.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm always down.
I mean, maybe, but maybe millennials should just die. I don't know at this point. It's like, this is rough. I don't know if I can do into 2016. Like, maybe we would have to skip into, like, 2017 to survive. I don't know, man. We'll see.
No, because we have to talk about the rise of Donald Trump and right-wing politics for millennials and what it means for the future of this country.
No,
We'll
true.
see.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay. Yeah, well, I think 2 hours is a pretty good mark because you don't want to drag on for too long. Yeah, so let's go around the panel. Anything you want to shill, Ford?
Nothing to show really right now. I am starting up my own print business. If you want some cool posters made, you can DM me on X, formerly known as Twitter, and I can print something cool off for you and ship it to you. Typically, we go for, pretty cheap. We get like 18 by 20 posters for like, $16 if you have a design in mind that you want to do. I will not print crap off though. I am an aesthetic patrician. I do not like bad looking stuff. So yeah, hit me up with that. Other than that, there might be an Old Glory Club article out soon about my experience in the Great Western North Carolina. And yeah, look forward to that. Other than that, you can find me on X at J_FordXYZ. No YouTubes, no plan of a podcast yet, but we're working on stuff and we have big things soon.
All I have to say is don't do it, Ford. You've got a good gig there with your printing. Yeah, and Mike, anything you want to show?
Yeah, go ahead and head on over to pureobject.net and go ahead and pick up some apparel. That'd be super cool. Otherwise, you can bless my Cash App. My Cash App being buymeacoffee.com/Mikeofpol. That's the pay piggy fund for the actual show I do with Capitalissimo every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, which is Drive Time Movie Night.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So you can catch that on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Rumble. I do not have... I don't have it in my calendar who's the guest this week. But we're going to have a wonderful guest, as always, this week. So tune in Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern on X and Rumble for that. And that's all I got.
And you've started another show with your friend, the Black Metal Enjoyer, about music, haven't you?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, we've been pushing off, like circumstances haven't lined up to record that one. Totally forgot to shill that. Go over either to my Twitter account and search for Sensitive Young Listener, or go over to Black Metal Enjoyer's his Substack, and go listen to the first episode of Sensitive Young Listener. It's every week. We go back and forth choosing albums, listening to them, do a little bit of a listen along, a little bit of analysis, and stuff like that. The first episode we did was on Burial's album Untrue, and it's all sensitive young man type material. So go listen to that if you want to get good music recommendations.
Oh, and Melon?
Oh, I don't have anything to shill.
Oh, all right then. Well, in terms of this channel, so last Saturday I did the most recent episode of my series with Hunger on modern Iran. We looked at the rise of the Qajar dynasty. And next time we do an episode, that will be the 19th of July, and we will be covering the Russo-Persian Wars and the rise of the Mujtahads. So if you're interested, give that a watch. Other than that, I'm not sure when I'm next going to be streaming something else. I'll announce it if I do. And I am going to be doing a stream with Iron Duke in a couple of weeks on Britain in Oman in the 1970s. So if you're interested in Middle Eastern shenanigans, go give that a watch as well. But just the last minute checking, we've had no other super chats, but thank you, Yes, for the one you sent earlier. So thank you all for watching, and good night. See you around.
See ya.